Well, folks, the other day I made a video about this short story about this alien. I made up this short story. I imagine what it'd be like meeting an alien, right? Now, people get mad at me a lot because once in a while I'll talk about conspiracy theory type stuff, like whether it's whatever it is, and people get mad at me because I don't fight it one way or the other. If someone tells me some wild conspiracy theory, I just usually say, yeah, maybe. And they get mad at me because they're like, pick a fucking side now. And I stay very neutral because I'm not going to really fight and argue for either side because, I don't know. But I do have my intuitions, though, which I usually don't talk about a lot. So with every conspiracy theory or every wild idea, I do have my intuitions on them, but I don't argue them as fact because I don't know. But I definitely have intuitions on conspiracy theories, on every single one. So I thought, to silence my critics, and by critics I mean 2 or 3 people that I know, because they're like, I stay kind of in the middle of most things because I can kind of see and understand both sides. That's why, generally speaking, I've always enjoyed bringing people together that hate each other or argue with each other and sort of finding some balance between them, because I can usually see both sides of almost every argument. Most arguments, if they're reasonable. Because a lot of stuff just comes down to perspective and your philosophy on stuff, right? Like 2 people could want the best thing for something, but they have completely different approaches on how to do it. But back to conspiracy theories, because these are juicy. Conspiracy theories are juicy, in case you were wondering if they're juicy or not. Okay. So I just pulled up Wikipedia and it says list of conspiracy theories. So I'm going to go down all of them. I assume they're probably in alphabetical order. And finally give you guys not facts, but my intuition if I had to guess. Right? I'm not saying that my intuitions are true, but if I had to guess, I'll tell you how I would guess. Here we go. By the way, speaking of conspiracy theories and stuff, sometimes I'll be watching. Listen, I don't like calling out people, but since I watch a lot of the Joe Rogan podcast, I've probably heard Joe Rogan talk 5 billion hours since he has such interesting guests that I always listen to the podcast. And, Joe Rogan's just a person, just like everyone else. We all say things that other people don't agree with, but sometimes he drives me crazy where he'll just giggle at something that he thinks, like he'll talk about crystals and stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, that's like people who believe in like crystals or Reiki and healing with your hands. And he like giggles at it. Or sometimes he laughed at the idea of like chemtrails. It's been scientifically proven that like airplanes create dust clouds. Case over. And the thing with the crystals and the Reiki and he giggling at it, first of all, how do you know? So like that's the thing that drives me crazy. That's why I usually don't. See, it's weird because I've always been naturally interested in conspiracy theories because I want to know alternative ideas. But I generally don't like talking about them with people because it blows my mind the answers people give me. Like if I talk about a conspiracy theory and you giggle at it like it's wrong. Oh, really? Crystals? You think there's magical crystals that heal? Or do you think Reiki, like energy healing? And then you giggle at it. It's like, how can I talk to you about it? Because you clearly, you don't know Like the idea that you think you know that there's no, like it doesn't exist. How would you know? How would you know? So it's like, to me, I only enjoy talking conspiracy theories with somebody who understands that, like, if we don't know, we don't know. If you tell me, man, I don't know what the deal is. Why are spiritual people obsessed with crystals? I don't know, man. Like, do they really do anything? I don't think they do, but I mean, I could be wrong. That's great. Or you can be like Reiki, massaging with energy. That seems kind of silly to me. I don't really believe in that. My intuition tells me that's probably bullshit, but it might be real. I can deal with that. But when you just openly giggle at it as fact, like it's bullshit, that bothers me, because that's nonsense, because you don't know. I know I don't know, but you're acting like you know and you don't. You for sure don't know. Or the idea of like seeing something, like with the chemtrails thing. I don't know shit about chemtrails. I don't know if they're real, but when you say like, oh no, like it's a stupid theory because science tells us that like airplanes create dust clouds. And so those dust clouds you see are created by planes, just regular planes. So it's bullshit. But the idea is they're not. So if that's real, then the other one can't be real either. Yes, we all know that planes create dust clouds. But can't there also be other planes creating other dust clouds with what people think are chemtrails? So it's like, yeah. So that's the main reason why I usually don't talk about conspiracy theories. And when people ask me, they get annoyed because I'm like, yeah, maybe. And I just kind of like leave it alone, because I just feel like people pick a side. 9/11 happened. 9/11 didn't happen. It was a conspiracy. It wasn't. It's like, neither of you know. Neither of you know. I would love to talk to all of you about every wild theory possible, because I find them fascinating. But I can't, because you guys are all picking a side and fighting for it as if you know. Crystals are bullshit. Healing through energy is bullshit. We landed on the moon. We didn't. You don't know. So if you want me to talk to you about conspiracy theories, have the humility to be like, I think it's bullshit, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure, but to me it feels weird. I get that, but if you're just giggling at it, it's the same thing in science when like somebody has a idea about something and everyone's always like giggling and calling it pseudoscience, right? Because that becomes very dogmatic too, because everything you can't peer review and study that you think about, you can't think about it as pseudoscience and you giggle at it instantly. Anything that hasn't been peer reviewed, if you want to contemplate and talk about it, people will just giggle at it and call it pseudoscience really quickly. Not much of an interesting conversation, is it? If all we can talk about is peer-reviewed studies. So, time to go down the conspiracy list here. Let's see what we got. Okay, the first one is aviation. Okay, numerous conspiracy theories pertain to air travel and aircraft. Okay, what about aviation? Okay, I've already lost interest. The conspiracy theories, aviation. I'm done with that. Black helicopters, chemtrails. We talked about chemtrails. Oh, but as far as like my intuition, right? Like, if you ask me, like, are there people out there who could be spraying some sort of chemical through a plane? Of course. Like, if it was revealed on the news, ladies and gentlemen, we've been wrong. We giggle at the idea of chemtrails for so long, but guess what? There was actually some corporation or some medical study being done and they actually spray. Would it surprise me? No, not at all. But then again, not much surprises me, because I basically believe anything could be theoretically possible, right? My theory is as simple as this on stuff when people giggle at silly stuff. I always equate it to this reality. You know, when people talk about ghosts, spirits, alien conspiracies, other dimensions, I always say, hey, why you giggle? If this reality is possible, if this existence is possible, any other existence is possible also, because this existence that we live in is a logical impossibility. It's complete irrational nonsense. The reality we live in, this dimension, is magic, because it's just here magically. There's no logic behind it. There's no scientific study that could ever be like, well, ladies and gentlemen, we just did an equation. There was non-existence, and then, oh look, you put some numbers together, and then we got this world. It doesn't work. There's no math equation that can make sense of existence because it's nonsense and magical, right? So if this reality that we live in is nonsensical, magical nothingness, then surely any other reality can exist just as easily, right? Because this one is basically a logical impossibility, and it exists somehow, right? Because you don't just go 0 plus 0 equals 1, ta-da, we have this universe. It's nonsense. So every idea that you giggle at and think it's silly or wishful thinking, remember the reality you live in is completely silly and wishful thinking, and yet somehow it exists. That's my rationale towards any crazy idea. So that's why almost basically nothing surprises me. Okay, so Korean Airlines, Malaysia Airlines. Okay. I think the Malaysia Airlines one, I could be mistaken. It was the idea that they think that it was shot down, that there was some important people on the plane and they just shot it down. Could that be possible? Of course. Why not? New Coke. I don't think I want to go into new Coke conspiracies. Coca-Cola doesn't sound like a... Although I'll have to say for years, many people didn't believe the idea that Coca-Cola was actually made with cocaine, you know, like the cocoa leaf or whatever it's called, you know. They actually import the cocaine leaves, but it's not a cocaine leaf. So cocoa leaf, yeah, they import it and they actually use it for flavoring. So it actually is made with the same leaf that's made. It's made with the same leaf that's used to make cocaine, right? A lot of people thought that's crazy. There's no way Coca-Cola uses that, but yeah, they do. Deaths and disappearances. What? That's a conspiracy theory? Oh, okay, I guess JFK and stuff like that. Yeah, my intuition was JFK assassinated. Yeah, my intuition tells me yes, he was most likely assassinated. Do I know for sure? No, but there you go. That's my intuition. If I had to guess, most likely probably was assassinated. And when I say assassinated, you know what I mean? Like, it was like arranged. It wasn't just some like random lunatic shooting the guy. Like, it was like definitely arranged. That's my intuition. New World Order. Wow, I'm losing my voice. New World Order states that a group of international elites controls governments, industry, and media organizations. Well, this idea of a New World Order, whether you believe in a New World Order or not, the idea is, look at all of the media and stuff. All of the, what is it? Like there's this, like all of the media is owned by like 5 corporations or something like that, or 3 corporations, something ridiculous. So, and they control all the mainstream media, which is why people go into conspiracy theories and alternative news, because we intuitively know everything on the news is bullshit and there's an agenda. Not only is it bullshit and there's an agenda, but it's all created to make money, which is so demented. The idea that the news now is just basically for ratings. It's so crazy to think that like you're trying to get a sexy headline for ratings. Oh, there's been death and destruction. Oh my God, yes, this is so sexy. This is gonna fucking just, oh my God, we're gonna get views and views and views and views and views. Like, it's crazy that the news is made for profit. So like when there's a tragedy, you're just jerking off at the excitement of this tragedy because you know your news station's going to get a lot of views. That is so fucked up. That is beyond fucked up. Denver Airport, George Soros. Freemasonry. Oh, this idea of like, hey, you know my friend Chuck, he's a Freemason. So this idea of these elite organizations existing, I mean, that's not really much of a surprise, is it? Because, I mean, I'm sure there's been underground civilizations that have been around for a long time. Civilizations, or just, I wouldn't call them civilizations. It's just like a group of people, right? I mean, Freemasonry, like the goddamn KKK is a organization, right? That exists. So like, why can't Freemasonry exist, right? You know, they sit around, they drink a beer, they talk about spells, mystical stuff. What do Freemasons talk about? They're talking about whatever they're into, masonry type stuff, you know? Obviously, when we think of Freemasons, all we think about is somebody making a horseshoe or making a wooden table. It might be more advanced than that. I don't know what the hell they're doing. My intuition tells me they're probably out there doing masonry type stuff. Okay, what else? Okay, I'm gonna pass some of those. I'm gonna definitely pass on some of those. The Antichrist. So there's a conspiracy theory. Right, I guess in religion, the idea of the Antichrist is somebody coming back and pretending they're Jesus. And then afterwards, haha, I'm not, you motherfuckers, I'm the Antichrist. Okay, that sounds fucked up, but there's a humor involved in that. Imagine this guy coming down, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jesus. God, I love you all. I really love you all. And then everyone just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And they all start like worshiping this guy, and like he becomes friends with everybody. And then eventually he's like, gotcha, motherfuckers. Like, what is it? It's almost like being punked by Jesus. It's so ridiculous. The idea of an Antichrist sounds so ridiculous. Like this, like, charismatic guy is all about love, and all of a sudden he tells you that, nah, I've just been fucking around. I'm actually here to kill you all. Like, what does the Antichrist do? He's there to pretend he's like this like guy to help, and then how does he kill you? Like, what does he do? He's this charismatic guy. He gets everyone to be on his side, and then what does he do for the gotcha? Does he just like blow them up, kill them, enslave them? What does the Antichrist do? You tell me, because I don't know. But Antichrist type figures, I guess, have been around forever, right? The idea of somebody being really charismatic and charming, and then, you know, they get you on their side, but they're just trying to manipulate you or control you. I mean, that's not even much of a conspiracy theory. But with the Antichrist, after he fools everybody, would he actually come out and say, yeah, I am the Antichrist? Like, do they actually acknowledge themselves as the Antichrist? Do they give themselves that label? You know? Like, are they playing the role? Like, does he always know? He's like, okay, I'm going to get these guys on my side. I know I'm the Antichrist. And then after, when they all love me, I'm going to tell them I am the Antichrist. Is that how it goes? Or does he not know he's the Antichrist? These are the things I've been thinking about lately. What else do we got here? Definitely going to skip those. Okay, again, we're back into extraterrestrials and UFOs. See, my theory on life on other planets, again, it's my intuition. I don't talk about it much. But if you had to ask me, what do you think most likely happened during the evolution of the Earth? Do you think that we evolved from apes here on Earth through hundreds of thousands of years of evolution? Or did an alien race come down here and speed up our evolution and mix their DNA with ours? Which one does my intuition tell me is probably more correct? Oddly enough, my intuition tells me an alien race came down here and fiddled around with us. Now, you're probably wondering why, right? Because you might think it's not very rational. The way I look at it is that there's most likely intelligent life all throughout the universe, right? Because it's just a numbers game, right? So, because even if it's really hard for life to naturally occur, the universe is pretty big, so it's still going to be around a lot. Now, if you ask me, out of all the intelligent life in the universe, there wasn't one species that was curious and came down and fiddled with us, I'd be very surprised if nobody ever fiddled with us. And when I say they fiddled with us, you can take that any way you want. You can take that sexually, non-sexually, because when you fiddle with somebody, like if I was fiddling with somebody, you might accuse me of something, but it doesn't have to be sexual. Remember that. So, but I think they did fiddle with us, but maybe they did fiddle with us sexually too. Not sexually, but like they did take off our clothes and probe us, most likely. So that's like semi-sexual because they undress you, they finger you, but I don't think they're getting off on it. So if you're not getting off on it, it's only probably semi-sexual, but they for sure probably stuck stuff and, you know, blah, 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 all that stuff people talk about. You know, I guess what they call it is anal probing. That's the technical term when the alien probes you. But yeah, my guess is that they probably came down here at some point, fiddled with us. And when I say fiddle, not only anally, but also with our DNA, probably. Now, I know that sounds wacky because it's like, where's the proof? Well, that's right. Where's the proof? Again, the science people who only like to talk about stuff that's been peer reviewed because everything else is pseudoscience and silly. Well, you can't contemplate stuff that hasn't been peer reviewed. You have the ability to do that. You can do it. I promise you. So yeah, if on the news tomorrow they said, ladies and gentlemen, we got to tell you the real history of the earth. We know it all. You know, an alien civilization came here hundreds of thousands of years ago. They fiddled with us sexually, non-sexually, anally. They messed with our DNA. I'd be like, yeah, not surprised. One of them is called government, politics, and conflict. Is that a conspiracy theory? Jeez. Yeah, okay. Yeah, man, a lot of these you just gotta have to skip over because they go down some pretty dark roads. But yeah, speaking about past history, my intuition tells me that we don't really know our history. In fact, my intuition strongly tells me that we don't really know our real history. So much so that I remember even in school. Now, keep in mind, in school, I was never a great student. I was always a very average student. I have like a very average IQ, which makes sense why I'd be a very average student. See how those two go hand in hand, right? Like my younger brother has a very high IQ and he did really well in school, right? I have an average IQ and I did average in school. What are the odds, right? So, but I remember back in school when we'd have history, every time I'd have history class, I'd always be like, I don't know about these history books. Because intuitively, I always felt like, how do we really know our history going back? I know there's books and there's stuff written, but like, I wasn't there. I'm just reading something in a book. To me, it always felt weird, right? Because not to mention, when you look back at history, when events happen, 10 different people have 10 different ideas of what actually happened. So the history becomes really weird. So but my intuition tells me that we really don't know a lot. I mean, dating way back. So speaking of conspiracy theories, or stuff that people giggle at, stuff like they giggle at crystals and Reiki and healing energy, but there's other stuff that people giggle about too, like lost civilizations, like Atlantis and all this stuff. People giggle at it because it's like, oh, it's bullshit. But like, do you know that the city of Atlantis didn't exist? How do you know, right? If you had to ask me, do you think the city of Atlantis was real or wasn't? My intuition tells me that it was actually real. Why? Mainly because I believe that a lot of our history is forgotten about. And also, I told you that most likely my intuition tells me that some alien race came here hundreds of thousands of years ago, probably sped up our evolution, and we probably had many civilizations here that we don't believe in anymore. You know, they're kind of talked about, but people giggle at them. So that's what my intuition tells me. Fluoride in the water. Yeah, that's a tricky one. The fluoride in the water to me is very similar to, like, I made a video recently about this idea when people fight over 5G and frequencies and stuff. Listen, I don't think you can study these things. Oh, there's been a study on fluoride. There's been a study on radio frequencies, radio waves. But the idea is our human bodies are so unbelievably complex. You know, like, you know, people talk about stuff like the pineal gland. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, like, there's so many functions in our bodies that I guarantee you we don't know 100% for certain. We have this idea that we think we can just take a chemical or a radio frequency, do a couple of tests on it, and somehow that 100% proves that it's either bad or good. I think it's too, I think that everything affects our body, right? In some way. So what effect does fluoride have on, you know, because the conspiracy theories is that it calcifies the pineal gland, and people giggle at that like, oh, you're silly. I guarantee you there's never been a test done that's 100% provable what fluoride does and how much harm it has. Because how do you create a perfect test for that? Or radio waves, right? How do you create a perfect test that's like 100% conclusive? You can't. And so if you ask me, what's my intuition on fluoride? Does it affect our body? I'm sure it does. Just like aluminum, every element affects your body. Now the question is, how much is it affecting us? Putting any substance in your body affects you, right? Whether it's alcohol, whether it's fluoride, whether it's aluminum, whether it's whatever it is, because, you know, people talk about like, oh, deodorant that has aluminum, don't use that. Now, the question is, how much are they affect? Like radio waves. They for sure probably affect us in some ways. How much they affect you, I'm not sure, but to giggle at it and say it has no effect, that's too much. That's too much for me. Oh my God, this video's, I only got 2 minutes left because it's past 30 minutes and it won't let me record past that. Let's see if there's anything else interesting here for the last 2 minutes. Okay, you know what? Oh, the moon theory. I'll end with that. People always argue, did we land on a moon? And the argument is, clearly we didn't land on a moon because you can see some of the video and it looks bullshit, right? Because that's the theory. It's like, oh, you saw the video looks fake, so we clearly didn't land on the moon. But the way I see it is, my intuition tells me we definitely went to the moon. We probably saw some stuff there, right? That surprised us. Again, going back to aliens. Maybe we saw some stuff there, evidence that someone has been there. And then what we did is we freaked out and we created these fake moon landing videos because we couldn't show the real footage because it probably had stuff they didn't want to show us. That's what my intuition tells us. So yes, so just because the video footage looks fake doesn't mean they didn't actually land on the moon. They could have landed on the moon, saw some stuff there, and then so we can't use this footage, so let's just create some fake footage and pretend that that's the real footage. That could have happened also. That's what my intuition tells me. That we went there, we saw some stuff that we probably didn't want to show us, and then they had to have some fake footage. You're like, oh, that's actually us landing on the moon. So yeah, I think we went there, probably saw some stuff, and then that's that. And I have 30 seconds left. My hope for everybody is keep an open mind and remember, this world we live in is an impossible reality and somehow it exists. So be open to almost anything, whether it's anything. Be open to anything, keep an open mind, and we can be nice to each other, discuss this stuff, have fun, and that's it. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.